are red, violets are blue. Why is it your Cubs can never score two?
Because sometimes they don't score zero. They don't score one. They stop. They just stop. They don't even get to one. Last night, one, but other nights, zero.
It was so painful for me last night to realize you were right.
Of course I'm right.
You know, you were completely right. 13
About the
innings.
Cubs,
13
every game.
Stop.
I'm better than those analytics dopes.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, are Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy beefing? Are the A's smart to bullpen their way through the wild card game? And is baseball ready to ditch its unwritten rules? But we begin today with Michael Wilbon's Pyrrhic victory. He said the Cubs wouldn't score more than one run and they would lose to Colorado, which is exactly what happened. And now the team he has rooted for his whole life is done, having lost two consecutive one games at home. Wilbon, as you survey the wreckage of your team, do the Cubs have major problems or just minor ones?
I think there's several minor ones, and I'll start with the 40-game suspension that Major League Baseball has doled out to Addison Russell, starting shortstop, all-star at least, I guess, one time for domestic abuse. He will miss the first 40 games. Self-explanatory. I think they'll try to trade him nonetheless. But, Tony, the problems we have involve very specific people. You, Darvish, who didn't post. I mean, he spent like $140 million. He's not there, $120 million. Brandon Morrow, the Dodgers closer that we had, was great in the first third, injured, wasn't there. So we were missing him. Chris Bryant missed 61 games. With those guys out, those are three of your seven most important players on the team. We still won 94 games. Now, I'll say this. Bryce Harper is now a necessity. I think you can fix these things. I don't know what you do financially. Theo is brilliant at this. But the guys that were injured have to play. They will. And then Bryce Harper needs to be on the Cubs' radar. But I think these are minor things, relatively speaking.
So you mentioned Bryce Harper because you come at me because
I'm not coming at you.
Well, I'm a Nats fan.
I'm coming at my team. They need a guy who can take a base on balls every now and then.
I'm going to take Bryce Harper out of this mix, and I'm still going to say that if I look at your team, the Cubs, and my team, the Nats, I prefer your players, with the exception of Scherzer, Soto and Robles and Turner and Anthony Rendon.
That's five guys.
Here are people that you put up. This is the thing that amazes me.
Why
that you don't score. You have Rizzo, you have Bryant, you have Schwarber, you have Baez, you have Contreras, you have Zobrist. I don't know how it's possible that this happened.
Part of it. Tony, they played like 51 games in 53 days because of rainouts and snowouts. And I told you in August, this is going to kill this team. They never recovered. They were leading the National League in runs scored. They wound up finishing fourth, which sounds okay. But, Tony, part of it is the approach to hitting.
Until the last day.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about hitting. Tony, they have a terrible approach. I know they're fifth in walks, but they don't seem to value getting on base and moving runners. And I think that's analytics knuckleheads.
The problem with the Nats became a problem for the Cubs this year, and that is relief pitching. You can't go anywhere without relief pitching. You can dress.
Our closer was hurt.
You can dress your entire team in pajamas for a road trip, but if you don't have relief pitching, you're not winning.
Did you hear me mention Brandon Morrow at the top?
I understand that. Well,
we got to have
this happens.
It does. So you're saying they got no problems?
I'm saying the problems are minor. I'm saying they led the league in wins. They're minor problems.
I said minor, so we agree. Why are we shouting?
That's what we do on this show.
I know, but you don't get to be angry today. I get to be angry. I'm tired of this. Let's go to the team that actually had the wherewithal to score a second run last night. The Rockies, with their pitching staff in tatters, drive an hour and a half at max up 94 to Milwaukee to play the Brewers now. The Brewers are off the beaten path. They're not on I-95, of course. And the only people paying attention to them are people like me, Cub fans. Tony, Milwaukee looks loaded, and they have the best record in the National League now. What kind of chance do you give the Rockies to beat them?
So let's look at the Rockies' recent circumstance. On Sunday, they were in the Mountain Time Zone closing out their season against the Nats. On Monday, they were in the Pacific Time Zone, right? Playing the Dodgers. On Tuesday, they were in the Central Time Zone going 13 innings against the Cubs, a game that ended Wednesday. And now, tomorrow, they're in Milwaukee playing the early game. If you ask me what I think Major League Baseball does not want the Rockies to advance. That's what I think.
I think that's a complete just exaggeration. They're already in the Central Time Zone. They got a day off. They got on a bus last night, and they probably went to the Pfister Hotel, and they slept. It's an hour-and-a-half drive. That's the traffic on the Beltway in Washington it takes you to get to the office. So what are you talking about?
Postseason in the National League was set up for the Cubs to win and to advance. And without the Cubs, without the big city Cubs, the big draw Cubs, I think baseball's hurt. I think they're upset.
They got the Dodgers.
I don't think they care about
They got the Dodgers.
Well, if they lose the Dodgers and they
got
lose
the
the
Bravos.
Yankees, if they lose those three
They got
teams,
the Red Sox.
It's not as big as those.
The Red Sox aren't as big as anybody in Major League Baseball. Of course they are.
Not the Yankees, the Dodgers, or the Cubs. Close. They're
Stop
next.
it with this. Look, I just think the Brewers are a superior team.
Maybe.
I think Craig Counsell, Tony, when he has to go to his bullpen, which he does in the National League more often, and he has to make double switches and go lefty-righty percentage switches, he's got a ton of guys in that dugout he can go to.
I will just say.
And a bullpen which is superior.
Arenado, Story, and Blackmon, okay? That is 104 homers and 288 RBIs.
They
So
hit it last night.
if you beat them, you've beaten a very fine middle of the order.
Okay, all right.
Major League Baseball commissioned and endorsed a TV commercial for personal exuberance, a commercial that appealed to its players and fans to reject the old stuffy rules that so many play by. Let's watch.
They said rules are rules. Don't stop and stare.
Toss that bat 30 feet into the air.
Don't flip your bat. Respect the jersey. He didn't earn that right. They called him unprofessional. No celebrating. Keep your head down. Flashy, immature, showboat. They said it all. No more talk. Let the kids play.
Wilbon, do you expect these unwritten rules to now change?
No, not overnight. I thought the coolest part of the commercial was Ken Griffey Jr.
Of course you did.
Being in the back
old.
of it. I mean, I love Ken Griffey Jr.
I know.
And I think it was good to have a player of Ken Griffey Jr.'s elite Hall of Fame nature and sort of the way he played the game at his age endorse this. Do I think it's going to change overnight? No, Tony. And look, there's a real sensitive area that's tough to get into. We're going to have to get into if we're going to discuss this honestly. And that is the culture, largely Latin American culture of bat flipping. It is not to say that all bat flippers are Latin American players.
Many are.
Many are, and the point is, many of the people who rail against it are outside that culture. I don't expect it to change overnight.
So let's get to this. There is a racial and cultural underpinning to all of this.
It says be tolerant.
Because many of the bat flippers have been Latin. And that created an enmity against them, born many times by American-born players. This is baseball saying the following. Hey, about 30% of our players are Latin. They come from a different culture than we do. We've got to make room for them.
Yes.
We've got to be more tolerant of them. Or as they say in Stripes, lighten up, Francis. This is a very important thing that is going on. I think these things can be changed. There is an unwritten rule that will never be changed. That is, if you throw at my player, I'm throwing at your player, because that's not Latin or black or white. That's baseball.
There's pushback. And when its race is involved, even a little bit,
and it is involved,
there's greater pushback. All I got to do is say the word school busing. In this country, there was a law that said this is what will happen now. And in those communities where kids were on buses where they still weren't welcome, the customs did not change overnight.
I think I'm not saying it's going to change overnight, but you have a commissioner in Rob Manfred who was on this program and said, we need more
He's serious about this.
We want to be more like the NBA.
I applaud him for taking up this cause.
This is a big deal.
Do you think it's going to change quickly?
I don't know how you define quickly. I think it is inevitable it will change, and this will be accelerated by this commercial.
Hope you're right.
Baseball putting its weight behind
I'm a little more skeptical than you are, but I hope you're right. And I hope Rob Manfred is right about it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Wisconsin and talk about cheeseheads again. This time the Packers. And an unlikely disagreement, perhaps? Aaron Rodgers lit into the specifics of the Packers' offensive approach Sunday in a shutout victory of Buffalo. Rodgers said, quote, "We were championship defensive level, non-playoff team offensive level today. We need to find ways to get our playmakers in position to get some opportunities," close quote. Mike McCarthy conceded as much and said, quote, "When I closed my door last night and watched the game, I felt like we left a lot out there," close quote. Tony, Rodgers versus McCarthy. Big deal, little deal, no deal.
It is a little deal if it's any deal because Aaron Rodgers has won. because Mike McCarthy has said that you're right at this point. Look, you can go out in an hour and get somebody to coach that team. You can't go out and find another Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers this is not true about most. There's just a small group of football players who are more important than anybody else on a franchise. Aaron Rodgers is that guy. He is that guy. And by the way, he's right. In this particular case, he's right. And Mike McCarthy's been with him a long time and was very wise to say, you know what? Because Mike McCarthy's an offensive coordinator. That's how he started. He said, we didn't do what we're supposed to do. Little deal.
This reminds me of a phrase that you and I are very familiar with because of a boss we once worked for and the way he made his operation run. It's creative tension. Yeah. Okay? Not only
Benjamin
is
Brown
creative
and Jim
tension,
Bradley.
That's right. Not only is creative tension not bad, it's required for teams that actually go in, mix it up, exchange ideas, get better, and then win. Aaron Rodgers knows he needed to say it. He needed to say it publicly, and Mike McCarthy needed to listen. And now you've had that happen. I expect the Packers to be better off for this.
Aaron Rodgers is 34 now. He's got a contract that takes him till he's 39. He's the most valuable piece of property in the NFL. Mike McCarthy knows that one of the reasons he has coached there for now in his 13th year, much of that is Aaron Rodgers and his talent. So if they don't get along, you don't want Belichick.
But a little
Brady
tension
now.
is good. A little tension. This kind of tension is good. By the way, is Patrick Mahomes the heir apparent?
He looks great. We've said that. Yeah. The Washington Capitals, he's got that strange voice though. The Washington Capitals will raise their Stanley Cup banner tonight. There will be outdoor watch parties all over the city, Washington, D.C. We will have the game on at Chatter. Thank you. After so many years of playoff disappointment, Alex Ovechkin was dominating in 4 straight series. Well, but only 2 teams in almost 30 years have repeated as champions, the Penguins and the Red Wings. Will the Caps make it 3?
There's some wild card things here at work, Tony. This new coach, Todd Reardon, who you and I wouldn't know if you walked in here wearing a Capitals sweater.
Don't know him.
Okay, so you have a new coach. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? New energy. You can't be stale when you have a new coach, right? I don't know. There's another thing. Alexander Ovechkin, deservedly so. He partied like a rock star all summer. You know who he also partied like? The Capitals partied as much as the greatest one-hit wonder to me in the modern history of sports in America, the 85 Bears. And what distinguishes the 85 Bears? They're the 85 Bears, not the 86, 7, 8, or 9 Bears.
That's right.
And Ovechkin was Mike Ditka. I mean, the cup and drink and party flowed.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It was. I've lived in Washington now, as you have, for almost 40 years. This was the most surprising and gratifying win that any team has had because it was so unexpected and it made people so happy and they shared in it. And I'm not going to go to the Cubs with 108 years. But this was a long time. The Capitals had never won.
40.
I think if they won 20 games this year, people would be okay.
No.
They're so happy that they won it all.
And Ovechkin and
Backstrom are 33 and 30, which is pretty old. And the thing you mentioned, Barry Trotz just quit.
He just
what is that? He just quit.
And by the way,
so I don't know.
Tom Wilson, a very important, maybe the 3rd most important player on that team, is suspended for 20 games for that cheap shot he delivered. 4th, maybe 4th.
Let's take a break. Coming up, are the A's making the right decision to start tonight's game with relievers? We will ask a man who'll be in the booth, Ron Darling.
We'll also ask him if Chris Sale's drop in velocity is really due to mechanics instead of injury.
When do you remember a championship coach just simply quitting? I'm done.
There's got to be something.
I'm going somewhere else.
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by Domino's. Order online and track your order.
Today we're opening more than 150,000 locations called Domino's Hotspots. Like beaches, roadside attractions, and dog parks.